This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
I'm not sure about you, but I always find the week between the conference championships and the Super Bowl to be excruciating because I just want the game to be here. I want to break it down. I want to watch it, enjoy all the stuff that comes with the Super Bowl each year. We're finally at least into game week. We actually have some markets to discuss. We're going to break down our thoughts throughout the entire week and break down this Super Bowl from every single angle, talking the Chiefs versus the Eagles. Today, we're going to kick things off, though, by talking about the more traditional markets of FanDuel Sportsbook, the team-wide markets, and start there because there's a cascading effect, and that will dictate a lot of stuff we think about the rest of this week. So we're going to dig in, spread, total, money line, team totals, some early drive props as well, and identify some spots where I see value at FanDuel Sportsbook to kick off Super Bowl 2025 week in a big way. Welcome on into Covering the Spread. That's right here on FanDuel Research and the FanDuel Football Betting YouTube page. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, here to break down my thoughts on Super Bowl 59 between the Chiefs and the Eagles, breaking down my thoughts on the traditional markets where I see value at FanDuel Sportsbook for the big game. We'll break down all that here in just 1 second. But first, do you want to go through the schedule for this week? We're going to have 5 shows across this week, breaking down my thoughts and others' thoughts on these games. That begins tomorrow. Austin Swain will join me breaking down key matchups for Super Bowl 59. We'll talk about what we're looking at on both the Chiefs offense and the Eagles offense, where we could see that those teams struggle, where the other team could have an advantage, and what that means as far as prop markets and more. We're at FanDuel Sportsbook. That's going to be at noon Eastern on the YouTube page. Also live at noon on Wednesday. I'm going to go through some correlated same-game parlays I like at FanDuel Sportsbook. Got time to dig in, so might as well make some assumptions and decide, okay, if we assume thing X happens, what else may be more likely to happen and potentially be undervalued in the betting markets as a result of that. So that's on Wednesday at noon. Thursday, we're going to have the DFS show in the morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, and then 2 p.m. Eastern. Got a couple of very fun guests lined up there, talking the best player props for this game. Those will be Megan Payton and Dr. Ed Feng, both with me Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, and then Friday, Andy Nader caps things off, talking about all the novelty props, halftime, national anthem, and much more, 10 a.m. Eastern on Friday. So, easiest way to get those shows as they go live is by going to the YouTube page, turning on notifications there, subscribing to the page to get notified as we go live each and every day throughout this week, but also check out the Covering the Spread podcast feed wherever you get your podcast. So again, noon on tomorrow and Wednesday, 2 p.m. Thursday, 10 a.m. Friday. Going live on YouTube to break down every angle of this game. The FanDuel Kick of Destiny is back, and this time it's every Manning for himself. This Super Bowl, 2 legends will take the field in a sudden death field goal showdown. Peyton versus Eli, live from New Orleans. 1 kick to claim ultimate family bragging rights. Who will rise to the moment? Pick your winner in the FanDuel app, and if you back the right brother, you earn a share of $10 million in bonus bets. It's the FanDuel Kick of Destiny 3. Make your free pick, and don't forget to tune in to watch the showdown live during Super Bowl 59 pregame show on Fox at 3 p.m. Eastern. May the best Manning win. FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, an affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC. No purchase necessary. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit MD Gambling Help Oregon, Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Let's dig in now to the Super Bowl and break down the traditional markets of FanDuel Sportsbook and let you know where I'm seeing value for this week. As we discussed last Monday in our first look, I am seeing value in the Eagles to win this game. Their money line is currently plus 106 at FanDuel Sportsbook. I've got the Eagles here by 0.6 within my model. And I do think that that is enough where I'd be willing to bet this. Now, when we talked back on Monday, my thought was I didn't want to bet it back then because I kind of thought there was a chance we saw some more movement towards the Chiefs throughout the week. That hasn't happened. We've seen things hold pretty steady. Eagles plus 106 right now to win. They were plus 110 back then. And as you can see if you're watching over on YouTube, it's almost 50-50 where the betting odds or the betting action is going in the public, both in terms of the money and the number of bets. I don't care about that in terms of dictating who I'll pick. It's more so deciding, can I get a better number later on? And honestly, with the way things have gone, maybe I get a better number on Sunday morning because we do see some pretty crazy movement day of at this point in the evolution of the gambling sphere. Maybe things do move Sunday, but it's not a lock. They move towards the Chiefs. So I am okay locking in the Eagles money line right now. If you want to bet a winner for this game, I do think that is a way to do so. Now, I would also say this. I also bet the Niners last year, and that obviously did not go well for me. But there was a good situation late in that game where the Chiefs got the ball in overtime, and they needed a field goal to tie it and a touchdown to win. In that scenario, when you had Patrick Mahomes backed up, where he has 4 downs to get you 10 yards, I thought it was good to hedge and bet the Chiefs live to win that game. And I'd be looking for similar situations here at the Eagles, where if we get the Chiefs in a situation where they're going for it on 4th down every time, Mahomes knows he has 4 downs, he can scramble, use his legs, that's where I get really afraid about having action against him. So what I would want to do is, if I'm betting the Eagles now, keep my eyes open on betting markets throughout the game. And if we get the Chiefs in that situation where they've got one drive to win the game, and we know Mahomes has 4 downs to get there, that's where I'm looking for a potential hedge situation, because I do not trust any defense to stop Mahomes in that situation. He has got, the clutch gene may not really exist, but if anyone's got it, it's definitely him. So I think that if I were to bet the Eagles, which I have, I would be looking out for opportunities late in the game, specifically 4th down, key drives where the Chiefs know they have to go for it on 4th down. That's where I'm potentially nibbling back on the Chiefs, because those situations do frighten me with Kansas City. If there's a scenario where the Eagles pull away, that could definitely be a situation that does happen. But I want to keep my eyes open for that, because I do not trust any defense to stop Mahomes in those situations. We'll talk about, I do like the Eagles money line. And there's a better way to bet that, though, which we'll talk about later on. First, let's discuss the total. I have this at 49.5. It's actually come down a point from where it was last week down to 48.5. I think that's right. I couldn't see it moving up. If it were up to 50.5, I would consider an under at that point. Now, it has gone down a point, and now I am a point above where the market is. I'm not going to take the over, though, despite that, because I think this game falls in 47 quite a bit, frankly, and we still lose in that scenario. So I would need a lot of movement in order to actually take the over in this game, for the full game spread, I should say. We'll talk about other routes for that later on. But with the full game spread, I just see a lot of scenarios where 47 is the final number of this game, and I don't want to lose when that does happen. And I also don't want to do an alt market, all over 46.5, because frankly, I'd be paying too much to sell those 2 points. FanDuel Sportsbook knows that 47 is a key number. So I don't really see a route to betting the full game total here, at least not before the game goes live. Maybe in game we're betting a live over or something like that. But for right now, probably not going to want to touch in the full game total. I would need to come down probably, frankly, 2 more points, because I don't want a loss in 47, which I think is going to be probably the most common number in this game. 47-51, one of those two, most likely the most common numbers. And I don't want a loss in 47. So likely staying away from the total. I have this at 49.5 and against a 48.5 at FanDuel Sportsbook. I mentioned before there is a better route to betting the Eagles than taking their money line. So let's talk about that now. And that is going to be the Eagles team total, which is at FanDuel Sportsbook right now, over 23.5 is minus 122. If I'm betting the Eagles right now, this is my favorite way to do so, because a big part of the reason why I show value in the Eagles is the Chiefs defense is more just okay than anything else. They definitely played well overall this year, but I don't think they're a shutdown unit. And the Eagles have a lot of ways they can beat you. They can move the ball on the ground. If you commit all your resources to stopping that, they showed against the Commanders, they can at times beat you through the air as well. So really what my model is saying is that the Eagles offense is undervalued in the betting markets. And we're getting a win on 24 with this number being at 23.5. As mentioned, I think we'll be around this area quite a bit in this game. So I think that I prefer to bet this number. Other reason why I think that the team total for the Eagles is better out is I don't care what Pat Mahomes does. If he goes silly and hangs 38 in this defense, I don't care as long as the Eagles get to 24. So maybe I'm just a scaredy cat who is using a way to get around playoff Pat Mahomes, the boogeyman. But I think it is the better route to betting this game than the Eagles money line in this one. So I'm going to take the Eagles team total over 23.5 minus 122. This is a number they've gone over in 11 out of 17 games where Jalen Hurts has been fully healthy. The 65% rate, the implied odds of minus 122 are 55%. And again, I don't think this Chiefs defense is one I truly need to fear. So to me, of the traditional markets in this game, my favorite one is going to be that team total over for the Eagles, 23.5 at minus 122. Chiefs team total is 24.5, so you're over a key number there. Taking the under at minus 108 would be a route you could take if you say, okay, I think that it's a situation where maybe the Eagles defense is really, really good. They're a shutdown unit. It plays towards the under, kind of like I initially thought things may do. You could go that route. I just very much worry about betting against Mahomes. And that is like my big fear in this game. So I think if I'm betting a team total, it'd definitely be the Eagles over, but I want it to be under 24.5. Like I don't want to bet over 24.5 for the Eagles because that's kind of tricky there because 24 are probably going to be a very common number for the Eagles to fall on. Eagles ultimate team totals. I think that the most one I'd be itchy to look at would be 26.5. 26.5 is plus 134, and then over 27.5 is plus 182. So again, FanDuel Sportsbook also telling you that 27 will be a commonly occurring number for the Eagles. So I think to me, taking the team total over 23.5 minus 122, good way to buy into what my model is saying, where it's saying the Eagles offense is undervalued against a Chiefs defense that I think is more so okay than anything. Another thought that I have on this game is the way things could play out early on. Because my worry is that both these teams are very, very smart and both these teams should be able to run the football. So if we've got a situation where a team has a 7-point lead late and it's sitting around, let's say, 44 points or so, pretty close to the total, 48.5. My worry is both these teams could drain the clock on the opponents. And so if I'm betting a total in this game, and again, I do see a bit of value in the over, I'd want to go with the first half over as opposed to the full game total. The over for the first half, 23.5 is minus 115. I think that's a better way because, again, the big fear with the Eagles is that they just sit on the ball for the entirety of the fourth quarter, which they've done almost at a certain point this year. So I can navigate around that by taking the first half over instead. Second half over, or the second half total, I believe is a little bit higher. To the total, there's also 23.5, but the over is minus 135 as opposed to minus 115. So in general, FanDuel expecting more scoring in the second half of the first half. And in general, that is typically how NFL games go. But to me, because both these teams, honestly, I think are managed pretty well. And I think that both these teams can drain the clock. The Chiefs have been phenomenal at sitting on the ball this year, keeping the opponents off the field and grinding out a lead late. Eagles have done that too. So if I'm betting the full game over, that's my big concern is that they just kill the clock late. But if I bet the first half total, that's not a big of a concern. So if I want to bet the total for this game, I'm going to do so in the first half specifically, over 23.5, minus 115 at FanDuel Sportsbook, because I do worry both these teams have the ability to let's kind of shut things down later on in the game. Now, the final one I want to discuss is a quick bet. That's the tab it's under at FanDuel Sportsbook. You can bet on the outcome of each team's first drive. And I always kind of enjoy this market because it's kind of a wonky one where you kind of have to dig in and do some research into how things happen. Chiefs' first drive, I think, is pretty properly priced because Andy Reid is very good in the opening script. They scored a bunch of touchdowns in their opening drives throughout the season. We know it's Andy Reid on extended time to scheme things up. So I think that their markets are pretty properly priced. I do think there is value in the Eagles to punt on their opening drive, which is plus 130 at FanDuel Sportsbook. Now, this does go counter to my thoughts on their team total over, but they started off pretty slow in general throughout this year. It took them all the way until December to finally score a touchdown on their opening drive this year. And we saw for the majority of the season where there was this long streak where the Eagles just were not scoring points in the first quarter. For whatever reason, Kellen Moore and this offense didn't really get the opening script right throughout the year, and it led to a punt on half their drives overall. Brandon Gadula, my colleague at FanDuel Research, did a full post on this over at FanDuel Research, breaking down opening drive results, first touchdown scores, and stuff like that, and Eagles did punt quite a bit on those opening drives. I think Steve Spagnuolo will have a good plan for Jalen Hurts. He's going to be blitz happy, trying to keep Saquon Barkley engaged and keep him controlled. And Barkley's big thing is home run hits, whereas he can't be taken down for losses, as we saw in that Commanders game and other games throughout this year. He can hit the home run, but you can also take him for a tackle for loss. Jalen Hurts will take a sack as well. Sacks are drive killers. So even though I like the Eagles overall, like their money line, like their team total, I do think there is value on the Eagles plus 130 to punt the ball in this game. Also does work as a bit of a hedge if you do decide to buy into the Eagles, whether it be via the team total or the money line. I think you can go this route. It may seem counterintuitive to like them in those areas and to also like them to punt on the opening drive, but just based on the way they've played things so far this year, based on the matchup against Steve Spagnuolo, I do think that it does set up pretty well for that. So Eagles to punt plus 130 in the opening drive, where I'm seeing value there. So overall, 3 or 4 bets that I do see that are values for me at FanDuel Sportsbook in this first look at the more traditional markets. Do you like the Eagles to punt in their opening drive plus 130? Like in the first half over 23.5 at minus 115. Like the Eagles team total is my preferred bet here, over 23.5 at minus 122. And like in the Eagles money line at plus 106. Again, if I'm doing just one of those, which I probably wouldn't do all those personally because a lot of them do kind of run counter to each other, I think the one I like the most is the Eagles team total over 23.5, minus 122, because again, they've hit that at a good rate this year. I think this Chiefs defense is a bit overrated. I think the Eagles, even if they do get behind, can put up points in this game. So to me, that's the best route for betting this. It avoids the boogeyman, playoff Pat Mahomes late, and I can feel pretty good about that bet and enjoy the Super Bowl Sunday, not worry about having to bet and have money against Patrick Mahomes. That is all that we have here for today on Covering the Spread, but a lot more Super Bowl content to come later on throughout this week. We're going live again tomorrow, noon Eastern, with Austin Swaim. He'll join me to break down some key matchups that he is eyeing for Super Bowl 59 and what that could lead to as far as player props and more within this game. That'll be noon Eastern on the YouTube page, but also up on the Covering the Spread podcast feed. After the fact, Wednesday noon, talking SGPs, Thursday 2 p.m. with Dr. Ed Fang and Megan Payton breaking down player props, and Friday at 10 with Andy Nader breaking down some novelty props that she likes as well. Again, subscribe to the YouTube page, turn on notifications there, leave us a thumbs up there, but also check out the Covering the Spread podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. If you got any questions for me, I am on X and Blue Sky at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work on the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always, and thank you to everyone for tuning in. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow, breaking down some key matchups for Chiefs versus Eagles. This has been Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast.